the only way I felt like I could be seen or heard was by trying to prove myself all the time, trying to, I volunteered for everything. I took on loads of activity. I also felt that I needed to act like a man in order to be noticed. My identity, I lost as in being able to enhance the emotional intelligence that you should be able to have, that nurturing play, being able to help others grow and thrive and all those kind of things, which it did, but it also prevented me from being able to be in that stance all of the time. Although I was very, very successful, plus obviously running the household, looking after my husband who's like medically retired, looking after my children, traveling all around the Europe and everything like that. I mean, it was constant 90 miles an hour.
Just a little taster of what is coming up on the show. But first, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. And also tell your friends and family about this podcast. Please let us know in the comments if you would like to hear any particular topic in relation to sleep or health. And I will create a show especially for you, just for asking the question. So let's get on with the show.
Before we start today's video, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the Empowering Family Health podcast. Today on the show, we are going to be talking all about, are you doing too much? Are you giving too much? Do you forget about yourself? We are, for women, we go, and we forget to stop. We forget to care for ourselves. We forget to fill our cups up. We're going to be talking all about that on the show. We're going to be talking all about that. Females are leaders. We are natural born leaders in the world. And I think I read a statistic there recently that I think 20% of females are leaders in the workplace. Now, could be correct in that, but there's very few. And we do have the natural skills and ability to step into that role. Today in the show, we're going to be talking to Keely Woolley about executive leadership and just stepping into that role of leadership and how to lead with confidence, how to beat the traps of burnout, and why many ambitious female people just don't step into that role and how they fall into this trap of burnout. Let me read out Keely's bio before we bring her in. I'm super excited about this conversation. So Keely is an executive leadership coach. She's a trainer and mentor with over 23 years experience in a global corporate environment as an executive program delivery director. Keely left the corporate world so that she could live the life she loves the most, serving other ambitious females to achieve even more fulfilling and successful life personally and professionally without compromising their health. Keely is a #1 best-selling author and an award-winning leadership mentor, trainer and coach, international inspirational speaker and professional speaker coach. Keely, come in and say hello. You're very welcome.
And hello to you too. And thank you for inviting me on the show, Johann. And thank you for such a detailed introduction. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And Keely, we were talking there just before we pressed record, and we have so many things in common. We met on Lane Godley's platform, I think it was, many months ago. And I heard you speaking, and I was just so inspired and moved by how you spoke and how you really stood and cheered on the women of the world, and I said, gotta speak to Keely and have her on my podcast. So you're all about empowering female leaders. Tell us why you do this. Tell us your background, how it led to you doing the work that you're doing today.
Well, I, as you mentioned, I was in the corporate world for over 23 years and then another 2 years in the consulting role. And in fact, I still do some consulting work. But, when you're doing working in the corporate world, as a woman, as you've just alluded to, And interesting, the further you go up the ladder within an organisation, I think there's more self-doubt that kicks in, particularly when you're in a male-orientated place. I was in a corporate global company. It was like a FTSE 100. And let's give you an example. Our general management team was white, male, Oxford, the typical sort of structure. Even the second tier down, very few women. But even in the level that I was in, within the business, I was in a team of 13, of which there was one woman. And, it was a manufacturing environment, which is not a reason why it should be predominantly. But it did mean that, in the organisation, even when I started the role, there were two women in an entire engineering department. And granted, in the paper mill, it's not the best of environments, so it's not something that women would ordinarily get drawn to. But that said, it was only two women. So I predominantly worked in that sort of male environment. And the only way I felt like I could be seen or heard was by trying to prove myself all the time, I volunteered for everything. I took on loads of activity. I also felt that I needed to act like a man in order to be noticed. And I didn't lose all of it, but, my identity, I lost as in, some of the behavior that you would have as a woman, and being able to enhance the emotional intelligence that you should be able to have, that nurturing play, being able to help others grow and thrive and all those kind of things, which it did. But it also prevented me from being able to be in that stance all of the time, be me, my unique self. And over time, I was very, very successful. And although I was very, very successful, I was volunteering more and more and more and more and more. Plus, obviously, running the household, looking after my husband, who's like medically retired, looking after my children, traveling all around the Europe and everything like that. It was constant 90 miles an hour and never time to stop or slow down. And, I got to the point where I was eventually made redundant within the organisation, of which I actually played a role in. I was strategically made redundant for an organisation that I helped to design, and they thought it was a fantastic design and then recruited someone externally to fill the role that I'd actually designed and they'd approved of. And at the same time, I had to put my team at risk, which broke my heart because we were like a family, which I know sounds a bit extreme, but we picked each other really carefully. The whole team was in part of the recruitment process. It wasn't just me that did it. So doing that was hard. And so when I did finally get told I was being made redundant, I crashed and burned, literally crashed and burned. I shut down mentally and physically. And I was unable to talk to my family, my friends. I wasn't able to go out. I was signed off sick for 3 months up until I was officially made redundant. But the stupid thing is I thought it was the redundancy, but it wasn't. And I know it's not stupid, but the thing is that you immediately think that that's the reason why you crashed and burned. But it wasn't. It was everything else that built up to that time. Even stuff as a child, our programmed patterns of behaviour, which are unintentional of our parents, but, ultimately our parenting, our schools, everything define who we are and how we believe things.
Yeah. The ability to rest is the body's key to healing. Do you struggle with getting asleep at night time or staying asleep during the night and waking up the next morning feeling absolutely exhausted? My book, How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, is easy to understand. It's solution-based and it's packed with research to help you take back control of your night's sleep. My book is available on Amazon and it's also available on howtogetagoodnightsleep.com. This book is also available in audio and ebook. So get your copy today and start having the best night's sleep that you've only ever dreamed of?
So that's where my journey started from. And I realised all of the traits when I on the recovery side of it. I realised all of the things that I was doing wrong and the traits that I was portraying and the behaviour and all of those kind of things, which was killing me inside, literally killing me inside.
Yeah, I oh my God, there's so much to unpack and all that. Like you said, you're trying to prove yourself, so you didn't feel worthy, you know, and you're trying to be somebody else. You said you're trying to act like a man, like act like how they were, because they were getting seen on her. So you're trying to be like them, and in doing that, you were pretending to be something else. You were ignoring who you really were, and that's where our strength is, when we stand inside of who we are and feel worthy of that, and whole and complete. I use that term quite an awful lot on all levels, you know, because when we're trying to pretend to be, it can be exhausting because you consciously have to, you know, make an effort. It's not a natural process when you're trying to pretend. And obviously, if you're trying to pretend, then you're not happy with who you are. You're not accepting who you are. So there's something in that's not quite right as well. It's not quite fulfilling. And then you said when you were retired, eventually it wasn't the retirement part. It was all the effort and the, you know, all the pretending and trying to be sane and trying to prove yourself. It was a lot. I could really hear that in what you were saying. And then the burnout came from. So obviously you had a lot of adrenaline and all that. And I often hear that, Keely, that, you know, when we're on the go and we're working hard and all of a sudden when we go on vacation, we go on holidays, people crash. This is where they seem to crash. That's because the adrenaline is subsiding, and now, you know, the body is trying to catch up. And but I see it all the time, Keely. It's and then you mentioned about the programming, and bless our parents, they tried their best, but they inherited that from their parents and all the programming. So Keely, there's so many places I could go with this. And like you're right, with the women, we do have that natural emotional intelligence of caring and nurturing, and we're wearing all the hats, and we're told that we're great multitaskers. But multitasking can be exhausting as well, and part of burnout. So tell us, just to move on from there, Keely, where do you find, or where do you see the most common places, the common things that causes this burnout, the traps, if you like, the traps that people are finding themselves in that's leading to this burnout? What were the common things that you see?
Well, I mean, as I've already mentioned, some of the things is that lack of self-belief and self-doubt and self-confidence that we're whispering into our ears. And in fact, I've been writing a post this morning which was relating to my husband, which... And I don't know if you've ever read the book, and it's a game changer for me. I should be promoting my own, actually, but this one is Shad Helmstetter, and it's What to Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Oh,
it is brilliant, absolute game changer. And, you know, it's this thing about, you know, your negative self-talk that you're constantly saying to yourself, rather than the positive self-talk. And the problem is that, you know, one of the things that I talk about in my book is that level of acceptance, because ultimately external factors happen to us. There's nothing we can do about external factors. You know, COVID, the war happens, you know, energy prices, you know, organisation transformations. It doesn't matter what it is. Things happen externally. You have no control of. The only thing that you have control of is how you either react or respond to the situation. If you react, you've lost control of it, and you're not managing it and showing up in a way that represents you as the true leader that you are and would be in normal circumstances. The problem is that, you know, when we're reacting that way, we then shoot from the hip. We start, the self-doubt comes in. We start challenging ourselves, saying that we're a failure, we're useless, when actually those situations, they weren't our fault. And yet, when we respond to a situation, and we can do that by taking a step back and thinking logically about an approach, then we can then try to manage it in a much better way, which is when we show up so much better, so much controlled. We can manage conflict, we can be vulnerable, you know, confidence shines through. But all the while, those limiting beliefs a whispering in our ear, then we have to start proving ourselves. Then the imposter starts kicking in, then the self-doubt kicks in. We're not confident to take those calculated risks. So instead, what we're doing is being this busy fool going at 1,000 miles an hour and never stopping.
Keeping ourselves busy.
Yeah, keeping us, as you say, distraction. We distract. And when we distract, we're not actually facing some of the challenges and the problems that we've got, which means that we then start burning out. So,
do women experience imposter syndrome more than men, in your opinion?
Right. So there's an important point here, is that there's also an argument about whether imposter syndrome actually exists, because the problem is that when you put a name to something like syndrome, it makes it sound like something that can never be fixed.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
Whereas it's really about our belief in ourselves, which then causes us to feel like we're not good enough, or why would I be promoted into this role? I mean, here's an example. I got promoted all the way through my business. I have never, up until my last interview, I'd never had an interview ever within my business. And which meant that I was promoting these roles because people come and found me. And yet I was still going, do I deserve to be in this role? When am I going to get found out? Who's going to catch me out, and all those kind of things. And I think the honest thing is, I think both men and women feel it exactly the same way. The difference between us and men is that men will take more calculated risks than us, because, like a job role, something like, if there's 55% of it that they can do, they go, oh, sod it, I'll go for it and I'll do it. So they don't have much self-doubt with it. Whereas women, perfectionists in us, we have to have over 90%, I think it is, of the job role before we'd actually take the risk of going for it. So, which is why I'm saying is, the further I think we go up the ladder as women, and even men, then the self-doubt comes in. So it's not an imposter, it's the self-doubt that comes in.
That's a really great distinction, Keely. That is a really great distinction. Yeah, because we use that term very loosely, don't we? We hear it a lot. And it comes back to the beliefs. So then the question is, where did the beliefs come from? So obviously with women, this has been through history. Through history, women have been they've been suppressed, maybe is the word. They've been told that your place is in the home and raising the kids and all that kind of stuff, and you're not that important in terms of leadership, and that's the man's role. And we've kind of grown through history and believe in that. And I think this kind of contributes as well to that program that we talk about, and that we're not good enough, or can I really be a leader in this world? Whereas we have a lot of traits, and men have their place, and women do as well, and we work very well together. And I think for women in particular, I think in the world that we're living in now, Keely, and tell me if you agree with this, but I believe that women have this, you mentioned the word vulnerable, very compassionate, very, we've got a lot of empathy. We can really hear and feel people and connect. And this is how we connect. And that's how we relate to people, how people trust us. And that's how people will work with us. Is trust is a very big factor when it comes to relationships and being a leader as well. Would you agree, or what would you?
100%. So if anybody has read the 5 Dysfunction, if I can speak, be even better, 5 Dysfunction of an Organisation, which is Patrick Lencioni. Now, what he talks about is that, that it's great the companies have what I call management skills, accountancy and HR and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about the actual emotional intelligence side of it, the best organisations are the ones that have actually learned this. And I hate the term soft skills, because they're not soft, they're blaming hard. Yeah. And, they talk about, the space of trust and vulnerability, and being able to work together and being able to give up things for others for the greater good, all of those kind of things, and being able to achieve results. So once you've achieved all the 4 steps, then you can achieve the top one, which is the results, which is ultimately what an organisation wants. But that space of vulnerability, when you can have an open conversation with your team, a trusting conversation with your team, then it helps them to have the confidence to show up and be vulnerable. And that's why it's so important to have that balance. Absolutely, you need male energy in a place. Not necessarily all men, but male energy. But you also need female energy, because the balance between those two helps to a company to thrive and bring those two together. And they are fantastic. And women as leaders are incredible because they've got those, the nurturing side of it, the questioning, the vulnerability, but they're logical thinkers, they're practical, they get down to do things, because we have to be organised as mothers.
Mm-hmm.
We get things done. We're known for getting things done. I know many men that have turned around and said, if I want something to get done, I'll have a team of women on, because they make it happen, because that's the way they're structured. And they're good leaders at it, and they want to see others thrive. And when you see others thrive, it helps people to shine through. They're not standing at the front going, yeah, I did this. They're standing at the back saying, they did this and we did it together, and that's why we've achieved success, And I know it's a little bit of a rant, but
yeah, no, it's true. I get that. Totally relate to it, and I think the whole point is that we have different skill sets, and when we work together we're stronger, and we each have our own gifts to bring to the table, and it's the same as true, when we're just on our own, as a solopreneur, or it's very hard to make it on your own. We need other people to help us as well, and I think women have that gift as well when it comes to asking for help. It's not a shameful thing. It's not like, oh, I'm not good enough. I think there's a strength in being able to ask for help, and women are better at that than men. Would they be?
Yeah. I think it's because we're used to having that conversation with each other. We do say, when not everybody, but we tend to have those open conversations. I mean, men are
more vulnerable.
Yeah, rather than having an open conversation, they talk about the football, rugby, and how many beers they drunk on the weekend.
Yeah.
And they're not actually getting to the root of it. But when you do start having that conversation with them and teach them that it is okay, it's so powerful, and they learn so much from it. Because at the end of the day, men as well have got female energy as well, and they can be really nurturing, supportive. And I mean, one of the chaps that used to work on my team, my team, we did pick it was really, really careful. But Martin was my second, I suppose, I would say. I turned to him when I was off or things like that. And he was incredible at it. He absolutely had a gift for it, and empowered the team. And it's such a beautiful thing to see when it does happen, But when you've got someone that's sort of closed all the time, you're teaching them it's okay to be closed. And then the people that work for them, around them, then fear being able to stand up, being vulnerable. They'll be seen as weak, that they'll be judged and all those kind of things. And that's what then starts eating people away, because again, self-doubt, self-talk, and all those things come into.
Yeah, it's infectious, really, isn't it? That energy, and they do say, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And it's true in an organization as well, and it's very influential, and that's why it's great to be around, people that are cheerleading and, and that are not afraid, that are very open, and that will share as well. And I love group work, because when people share, and it takes something to share, but it helps other people, because other people can see themselves in that as well. So I think it's really important. I think it's a really important thing. So not only are you getting help from other people, but you are helping other people as well by sharing your vulnerabilities. And that's what this is all about. And it makes us all human. It's like, oh God, she has that problem too, or he has that problem too. Oh God, I'm not on my own, because loneliness.
Alone. Yeah,
that loneliness.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing is I did my first 5-day challenge. I did early last year. 2 of the ladies that was on my call, since we're getting dark and dark in here, 2 of the ladies that was on my call were directors, IT directors that used to work in the company that I worked in. I knew them both, and both of them in the same IT team as directors. And like myself, stalwart character, never looked like anything was wrong, always had everything in hand, nothing to worry about, all those kind of things. And when I was going through some of the stuff, the tools and strategies that they need to do, one of them sort of was saying, about the whole vulnerability side of it, and said, like there's times that this happens, and it can be really frustrating. And every time I talk, someone interrupts me, and he does the same thing over and over time. Because I was saying to them about reacting to situations. I said, think of the time that you become really stressed out. And she said, well, something that happens on a regular basis is this. And she was talking about it. And the other one turned around and said, God, I didn't know that. She said, every time I see you, you look really, like you're always okay, that everything is in the right place, that you've not got any problems, you've got everything in hand, and all those kind of things. And she said, there's me sitting there feeling like I'm dying inside because, everything's going to crap and everything's going wrong, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And she said, well, in effect, she said, you're actually suffering the same problems of me. And she went, yeah. The problem is you don't talk about it. And the good thing is with that situation now, is that when the other person's in the room with that one person that just like drives her nuts, the other one can call it out in a structured way before it blows out of, proportion. But it just goes to show, though, that having those vulnerable conversations, then you can then start having that together in your own space. But when you do the group work, it makes people realise,
there's power in them.
I'm not the only one that's experiencing it.
So true. It's such a big one. It really is such a big one. It really is. Speaking of tools and strategies, Keely, can you give us some tips and some tools that that we can work with to help us, to really empower us?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I always say, with stress and everything like that, is being able to start recognizing when stress takes place. So it's that creating awareness. So during the day, it's just taking a mental note of times where you're perhaps feeling a little bit more stressed than you would do, and maybe put, a measurement between sort of 0 to 10 on what that would be. Mm-hmm. And make a note of sort of where are you, what you're doing, who you with, whether you're in a place where it's got loads of people, whether it's just on a one-to-one space, all different situations, because every situation you're going to be able to reacting in a different way. And if you sort of start creating that awareness of it, with each of those situations, and perhaps have a look at them and then start considering, the who you're with, what you're doing, and you can start building those patterns. Mm-hmm. And when you start building the patterns around them, then you can look at them individually and think, well, how can I manage this in a different way? It's like taking that step back. It's like I say to everybody, is like, when you're in the situation, is that you've got to learn to stop, breathe, take a step back, and when I say breathe right, where solar plexus is, rather than all this crap that you just keep on regurgitating. And when you take a step back and breathe, and then, just do that for a little while, you clear your mind, you become more focused. Yeah. And when you become more focused, you can think of things and strategies in a much better way to manage it different. You'll respond, not react. It's those kind of things. But when you get to build the picture it, and the other thing is start recognizing your indicators for stress, those things like your headaches or your brain fog, or things like arm aches or rashes or gut problems, all of those things that you see in isolation as little things. But all of those little things in isolation become one big thing, and that's when it starts spiraling out of control. And that's when you then start becoming burnt out, because unfortunately, many of us don't even know that we're on the path to burnout because we don't recognise our key indicators for stress.
We're so busy because we're so busy and we don't stop. We'll go. Yeah. There's a lovely quote, I don't remember exactly, it's in between the stimulus and the response, there's a gap. And that's where the present moment is. That's where we can make the changes. That's where the power lies. But we've got to stop. And I love what you said, observe, be aware, just notice them. And not even having to know what to do right there and then, but noticing is the first step. That's your main point, is to really be aware. But we need to slow down. Even, sometimes during the day, I say, at 2 o'clock, check in with yourself. At 6 o'clock, just check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Ask yourselves, those questions. And then you said, powerful, ask yourself, where is this coming from? What's this all about, type of thing. But noticing the indicators then as well, the headaches, the rashes, the gut problems. That's so true, like that, because your body is always talking to you. Like, it's so powerful. Yeah, I mean, like we I think women, this whole thing around multitasking, wearing all the hats and being the mommy and then being the businesswoman and what have you, we need to look after ourselves and care for ourselves, because if we don't, then we can't show up whole and complete for ourselves and other people in the world. Because as human beings, we're here to serve other people and help other people. That's our role, really. But in order to do that, we've got to look after ourselves first. So this awareness that you're talking about is a big step.
It is. Well, I mean, ultimately, you can't drink from an empty cup. And, the analogy where, you're on the plane, if the mask falls down, they say you put it on you first. Yeah. Because the problem is that when you don't put it on yourself, everybody else around you is watching you slowly die inside.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important, because we, as mothers, not everybody, but we do serve everybody. We serve our partners, we serve our children, we serve people around us. We are the carers. And I don't care what anybody says, it is a natural instinct by and large, because that's our design role we've had in life, and arguably there are things that we can actually change for it, but we are the carer, and we're the creator, aren't we?
Yeah.
The day, of children, and I don't mean the spiritual creator. That's a little bit too much. That
absolutely. Keely, we're coming to the end. My God, I could talk to you all day. Can you tell us, just before I ask you the final question, can you tell us where people can find you and how people can work with you?
Yeah, okay then. Well, there's a couple of places. I'm on LinkedIn as Keely Woolley. I've also my website, which I will also share in the link, is www.metamorphsuccess.com, and it's meta more without the E in it for success. So all linked to my dragonfly, of course. But I will share in your link, I'll share also a link to a free gift, which is how to take back control of your life guide. And it's just some tips and guidance tools, so if people would like to do that. And I'll share a Calendly if people want to just have a chat and find out about each other. And as I always turn around and say, is discover your why. Because at the end of the day, without your why, you're just merely existing in it. And I always love to know why people do what they do. So, because I think that was one of the questions I had with you. I think it was like, why do you do what you do? Which obviously then led to you sharing me your story. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's our driver, isn't it? It's our driver. It's what gets us up out of bed in the morning. I think it's really important that we all have a why, because we all have a purpose, whether it's big or small. Oh, Keely, I just love it. I want to ask you, and I'm going to meet you. We're just before we start recording. I'm going to meet you in a couple of weeks. I'm going to see Andy Harrington's event. So you do your speaker training there. That's another side of what you do as well, the speaker training. So I can't wait for that, Keely. But just before we go, just to really wrap and sum everything up, can you leave us with one thought, one thing to consider, like one golden nugget, just to help people to step off that roller coaster and just to stop and consider who they are and what they want in life? Just one empowering thought or message that you want to leave our listeners with.
Well, the first thing that I would always say is, just be who you are. Don't try to be anybody else. The only person you're responsible for is yourself, in the sense that you can't change anybody else. So stop trying to rescue everybody else and concentrate on focusing on you and finding self-love and self-compassion and self-care. And you can do that by just stop, slow down and breathe, even if it's just for 3 minutes. But just take some time out for yourself.
Beautiful, Keely. God, that touched my heart when you said that. It really did. Just stop, just slow down, and just realize how amazing that we all are. It's so beautiful. Keely, thank you so much for spending the time with me here today, chatting with me all about how we can empower each other and be a female leader in the world, whether it's in the workplace or in the home or just in life, just being a leader. It's so amazing, and it's just so enlightening, and a breath of fresh air just having this conversation. So Keely, thank you so much. Continue doing the work that you're doing. I love who you are, what you're up to, and go and have a wonderful day. We'll speak again soon.
Yeah, and thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I do hope you are enjoying these conversations, and to help me continue putting these videos and audio podcasts together, I do have an ask. I do need support to help me to keep bringing you knowledge and insights. There is a Patreon link, patreon.com/empowering family health, or you can make a donation via PayPal. All the links are in the description and the pinned comment. You can do a one-off, or you can do a monthly support. So I'd really appreciate that. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Take care.